White Wolf told Cheng Dalei that a man with his knowledge should already understand what the situation meant. She asked what their real value was. Li Wan'er cut in and explained that Sima Qian's influence, together with the contents of her book, amounted to a kind of hard currency. She added that anyone who controlled her would also control the intelligence and public voices capable of shaking the whole world. Cheng Dalei asked White Wolf what she wanted in return for offering something that valuable. White Wolf answered that she wanted safety. She explained that the world was falling into chaos, and sooner or later someone would discover their location. She noted that she could negotiate with the prince, but that would be impossible without equal strength. She acknowledged that Cheng Dalei had already secured a stable position in Liangzhou. She told him that with his resources, he could protect all of Toad Village. She admitted that his presence finally let her feel at ease. Cheng Dalei and Li Wan'er were caught off guard when White Wolf addressed him as the big boss. She remarked that since the princess had chosen him, he would need more supporters if he intended to become emperor in the future. She regretted the false rumors attached to his name, but made it clear that she trusted his character as long as he was willing to protect them. She then formally offered her full support and pledged to help repair his reputation. Sima Qian and the others fell silent as they heard the offer. Hart arrived soon after with a quiet laugh and announced that the brothers and sisters scattered across the world would eventually come together again. A system notification followed and issued a territory expansion task. The task required Xinghua Hill to be brought within the protection range of Toad Village through secret defense against princes and vessels, with a reputation broadcast listed as the reward. Cheng Dalei checked his system profile, which described him as a world-famous, yet notorious peerless swordsman at the age of 22. He noticed a new alert and opened it. The system explained that shaping public opinion and winning people's hearts were the work of civil officials. It described the reputation broadcast as a tool that could gradually reverse his extremely poor reputation, and it reminded him that whoever won the hearts of the people would win the world. It also warned that the quality of his reputation would affect the chance of recruiting high-level talent. Cheng Dalei understood that if he failed to take control of public opinion, his enemies would do it instead. He told White Wolf that she might need to wait 2 or 3 years because his forces in Liangzhou would not be ready for an offensive anytime soon. He made it clear that he could not spare manpower for now. White Wolf replied that there was no urgency because they only needed him to send troops when Xinghua Hill faced danger. Sima Qian rushed over and asked what they were discussing. When White Wolf explained that they were asking the boss to send troops, Sima Qian immediately refused. She declared that the place belonged to her and would not allow any man to enter the holy land of her harem. Cheng Dalei briefly wondered whether he should send only women soldiers instead. Sima Qian considered it for a moment, then changed her mind at once and welcomed the idea of letting them join her harem. Cheng Dalei and Hart could only stare at her, completely at a loss. The system then revised the task and specified that only women troops could be sent to support Xinghua Hill. Cheng Dalei remembered that the Pear Blossom banner still had a unit of women soldiers who needed to be brought over. He also planned to visit the Bayan Dragon and obtain several dragon scales so they could resist enemies with containers. After returning to the stronghold, he intended to send people out at once. Sima Qian grew excited at the thought of beautiful women, and Cheng Dalei let the remark pass. He then told everyone that he would still need their help spreading Wan'er's name. Sima Qian asked what kind of reputation Princess Mingu should have, and whether they should praise Li Wan'er as unmatched in beauty and grace. Cheng Dalei paused, then explained that he wanted something entirely different. He held Li Wan'er and declared that Princess Mingu was a person marked by heaven. He insisted that she would unite the empire, secure its future for generations, and rise with the stature of a female ruler meant to endure. White Wolf and Sima Qian were both stunned. White Wolf asked whether Cheng Dalei meant that if he ever took control of the realm, he would raise the princess to power. Sima Qian blurted out that making her empress while so many princes still remained was an act against heaven. Cheng Dalei answered that the rest belonged to the future and that after Liangzhou fell, they only needed to begin building support for Wan'er. Sima Qian laughed and admitted that she had thought herself rebellious, but now found Cheng Dalei even bolder. She shouted into the night that she liked the assignment. That day ended, and Cheng Dalei later sat alone drinking, while the system displayed the rewards from the trip. He received 1 character draw, 2 territory buffs that would only activate after returning to Toad Fort, and a formal partnership with Wanzhuan Book Academy. He also gained two peerless physicians from the Hua family, Ni Yinyang's loyalty, and the construction blueprint for the Shadow Hall. He briefly considered using the character draw at once, then stopped himself. He worried that drawing an exceptional figure out in the open could create unnecessary trouble. He decided to wait until he returned to Toad Fort and claim everything together. As he drank, Cheng Dalei felt that the rewards mattered less than what had happened with Wan'er. He had already chosen the path Toad Fort would follow from then on. He intended to support Wan'er's rise, even though he hated the betrayal and calculation that ruled human affairs. He understood that in a chaotic age, anyone with land and troops would eventually be dragged into the struggle. He regarded the hope of staying outside that conflict as childish. Once a person had entered the game, retreat was no longer an option. He knew the outcome would be absolute either way. He could lose his territory, his life, his soldiers, his brothers, his family, and the people he cared about, or he could defeat everyone else. He settled on taking the world for himself. After a while, he noticed Wan'er approaching. She came to him after Yin-Yang had fallen asleep, and the two remained together in silence for a moment. Nearby, Sima Qian secretly watched the scene. Wan'er called him by name and asked whether the moon looked beautiful that night. Cheng Dalei answered that the night was better suited to catching a wild boar in a melon patch. The reply left both Wan'er and Sima Qian speechless. When Cheng Dalei noticed her reaction and asked what was wrong, Wan'er called his name again. She then told him that Yin-Yang was already asleep and asked whether he could help with her hair. In a quiet mountain valley at night, Li Wan'er finally spoke to Cheng Dalei after their reunion. She told him that only 3 months had passed since he left for Yuzhou, but the separation had felt much longer to her. She reminded him that even after meeting again, they still had not truly talked during the 2 days that followed. Cheng Dalei regretted how quickly he had left before, and admitted that he had not understood how deeply it would affect her. Li Wan'er explained that she had wanted a private moment because she intended to tell him what she really felt. Cheng Dalei gave a brief acknowledgement before a nearby disturbance interrupted them. Sima Qian had been secretly recording the exchange in a notebook until Cheng Dalei noticed her presence. He told Li Wan'er to wait while he dealt with the nuisance. Hart then drove Sima Qian away with a burst of power and coldly remarked that an annoying intruder should know when to disappear. Once the interruption ended, Hart encouraged Cheng Dalei to continue, and he told Li Wan'er that they were finally alone. Li Wan'er admitted that she had left Toad Fort because she wanted to see whether she could take him for herself and become his only wife. She revealed that Su Ying had understood that intention from the start, but still allowed her to come. Li Wan'er then forced the issue and told him that whether he was fickle, dense, or simply cruel, she wanted a direct answer. She awkwardly asked whether there was any place for her in his life. Cheng Dalei answered that there was a very large place for her. He told her that everything they had gone through together made it impossible for him not to be affected. He confessed that he could not even remember when those feelings began. What he did remember was losing all composure when she had prepared to marry the wrong king to save him. And that shock had pushed him to steal her away. Li Wan'er wanted to know why he had never told her any of this back then. Cheng Dalei explained that the reason was simple. He had been abandoned. When she pressed him on why he could now speak so openly, he told her that his background had once made him believe he was unfit to become a prince consort or any kind of royal husband. In his mind, a princess and a bandit belonged to completely different worlds and could never truly share a future. Li Wan'er admitted that she had never viewed their situation that way. She reminded him that she was no longer some distant imperial princess. She was only Li Wan'er now, the captive wife he had brought back, and although she had already prepared herself for whatever came next, he had barely paid attention to her for a long time. Cheng Dalei explained that something more urgent had always demanded his attention, leaving him no chance to stop and look back. He admitted that while he kept pushing forward, he had neglected many things around him. During the rare moments when he could rest, he had often questioned what he was trying to do, where he was supposed to go, and who he was meant to confront along the way. He reflected that real life did not move according to any grand final objective. There was no central plot waiting to resolve itself, and no ultimate enemy waiting at the end for a hero to defeat. What remained instead was the ordinary and exhausting problem of survival. He thought it was almost ridiculous for someone without power or resources to even speak about survival, as if it were simple. When he had been poor and struggling, his only goal had been to improve his circumstances. His dream had been modest and concrete, to build a mountain stronghold where the people he protected and the people who protected him could live decent lives. Li Wan'er asked whether that playful and troublesome bandit had really turned into a serious city lord. Cheng Dalei answered that leading more than 100,000 people left no room for childish behavior. He told her that once a person carried a family and a career at the same time, he also had to carry the duties of a father, a lord, and a husband. He could no longer act carelessly, and although that had made him more boring, he accepted it as part of growing up. Li Wan'er grew annoyed and called him a jerk for leaving her unresolved for 2 full years after taking her captive. She struck him in frustration and called him a blockhead. In her view, if he had understood himself sooner and paid proper attention to her, they would not have needed so much time just to reach this point. Cheng Dalei took her hands and told her that it was still not too late. They had already moved forward one step at a time and finally built a home. Since they had reached that point together, he believed it was time to think about something larger. Li Wan'er looked at him in surprise and wanted to know what kind of bigger dream he meant.